With all the problems we've been going through over the past couple of years, with the culture wars, with the pandemic, the lockdowns, other demonstrations and fighting, and political opposition, it just seems that things are getting worse and worse. And now we've got hot wars breaking out. And now we're facing a world where things can get pretty dim, pretty fast. In other words, we're at a position in our lives where we are facing real problems, real struggles, real limitations coming right to us. So how do we deal with it? Well, I just recorded a deep releasing session for a class that's going on right now about living your true purpose, knowing who you are, and knowing from yourself that no matter what problem that is going on in the world today, that you are bigger than it. So I wanted to share this with you because this is something that we can all benefit from, is recognizing who we are and not getting swept away with all the conflict and struggles that are just escalating more and more now, and that we can stay above it all, keep ourselves in a nice, peaceful, and calm and conscious, and therefore in a place that we are genuinely safe and in control of our lives coming from that place. So I want to share this with you so you can get bigger than any problem that seems to be in the world today and really know who you are. All right, let's do a little cleanup and take a look at another way of dealing with our limitations. So close your eyes. And take a look at something that's still a limitation for you. Something that is beyond your capabilities right now. Something that you don't have control over. It could be your body. It could be something that's going on in your life. It could be something that's going on in the world. And you're looking at that as a separate thing that I have no control over. I have no answer to that. Now, what we heard from Lester is that everything is your picture. Everything. Everything is your creation. Everything. Which means that everything is under your control. All of it. Now that's where Lester's coming from. And that's where we're looking to prove out for ourselves and get to for ourselves. So how do we get there? We've been working on it, seeing that limitation that's still staring at us. And does it stir up wanting approval, wanting control, wanting to be safe? So let's start there right now. That limitation that you're looking at right now. Does that bring up wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting to be safe? And could you let go of wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting to be safe? And could you let that go a little bit more? And could you let that go a little bit more? And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And how does that feel now? Now, how do you feel about that limitation? Right now, maybe it's no longer a limitation. Just letting go of the wanting approval, control, and safety. Right? That's done it. And now, instead of wanting and feeling like you're lacking with something that's separate from you, it's bigger than you, now you're coming from a place of having. And there is no limitation when you're into having. None whatsoever. You could have everything. Again, look at where Lester's coming from. Everything is your picture. Now, if that doesn't seem real or true, like, well, how could it be my picture? How could I change that? Well, you might recognize that when you dream at night, whether you're aware of it or not, you easily change your picture in your dream. Right? Like the moment that the dream is no longer working for you, you like played out that course of that dream, that whole scenario. You're like, okay, well, this is all done. Let's flip the scene and move on to another dream. Right? So you just change that whole story, go on to another dream. Right? Who did that? Who just said, okay, enough of that. Let's do this now. You did. Also, you might even recognize sometimes when you're in a dream and things aren't working for you, like you got a problem in the dream, you're like, oh, wait, no, I don't want to deal with this. And you just decide, enough of that, done. And the whole problem goes away in that dream. Or you find yourself like in a scary place, you're like, oh, no, enough of this. And boom, you like teleport yourself into another place. Now, if you could do that in your dream, maybe you could do the same thing in this dream. Now, how do you know that this experience right now isn't a dream? And who's watching this dream right now? It's the very same one who's watching the dream when you're sleeping at night, right? So it's from that same source that you can make the change. So, if in this dream, this waking dream right now, you still have a limitation, a problem, you still have something here that's bigger than you, that's separate than you, that you have no control over, just take a look to see what that is. And let's look at it this way. See if you're wanting to change it. Basically, see if you're wanting to resist it. You're just resisting it. And by resisting it, that comes in the form of wanting it to change, wanting it to be different. I'm resisting it as it is. It needs to be different in order for me to feel calm, secure, happy, and so on. All right, so wanting to change something, or in other words, wanting to control something, it's a form of resistance. Like pushing it away. Get that away from me. Make it different. If it's different, then I'll take it. But as it is, get that away. Right? I want that thing to change. That's resistance. You can also notice, are you trying to figure it out? Figure out, how do I deal with this? How do I handle it? And while you're trying to figure it out, guess what? You're resisting it. And that's obvious when you look at it. Just look at what's going on in your mind. Your mind is just swimming around looking for an answer. What do I do? How do I change this? What's the answer? And you could just feel that resistance of being in your mind, being caught up in that whirlwind of thoughts. That's resistance. So basically, this problem, in a number of ways, you're resisting it. Right? I want it to change. I'm trying to figure out an answer to it. I want to be separate from it. Right? So if you're resisting it and wanting to be separate from it, first of all, what does that accomplish? As much as you want to be separate from it, can you ever actually be separate from it? Or is it always still there? Following you wherever you go. And sure, maybe you can pretend to hide from it, but it's still out there. Still waiting for you once you come out of hiding. Right? So wanting to be separate from it, that doesn't accomplish anything. Now again, what's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of resisting and wanting to be separate? The opposite is surrender. Right? So all of this wanting to figure it out, wanting to change, all that, it's like push it away. Get that away from me. Whereas surrender is just dropping your guard. Open yourself up, just wide open. Like, here I am. Even allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Totally, completely vulnerable to it. I'm wide open. Do whatever you want with me. Have your way with me. I surrender. Isn't that the opposite of the other thing that we've been doing? Now, a simpler way of looking at this is when you're resisting something, wanting to change it, trying to figure it out, you're wanting to be separate from it, you're basically just saying no to it, right? And what's the opposite of no? Yes. So, take a look at that limitation and see if you've been saying no to it. And again, look at the results that you achieve when you say no. Does that make that problem go away? No. In fact, it keeps it there. So if saying no doesn't work, then let's do the opposite. Look right at that limitation. Whatever it looks like to you right now. Look right at that picture and say yes to it now. And say yes to it a little bit more. And say yes to it a little bit more. And say yes to it even 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 more. And even more. And even more. And even more. And how does it feel saying yes to it? Are you lifting up when you say yes? And do you feel a little bit bigger in comparison? Maybe you're not quite bigger than it yet, but you're getting bigger and bigger, right? All right, so saying yes works. And you have lots of proof that saying no doesn't work. But you got to keep reminding yourself, oh, wait. This habit of pushing things away I don't like, that doesn't work. And saying yes, which my mind does not like, keeps telling me if I continue doing that, I'm just going to be stupid and I'm going to get myself in trouble. I'm just being a fool. But the proof is in the pudding, as they say. When you say yes, that works. You get positive, you get bigger than the problem, and the problem goes away. All right, so say yes to that limitation, that problem. Just say yes to it. No matter how nasty, horrendous it may seem to be, just look in and say yes to it. And more. And by saying yes, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with it. It's quite simple. Right here, right now. As you're saying, chances are you don't have the problem right here in the room with you. Right? Like maybe the problem that's on your mind is the war that's breaking out between Russia and Ukraine. Yeah, oh my gosh, that's a real problem. That's bigger than me. I don't know what to do about that. I need to keep myself safe. But chances are, right now, you don't have Vladimir Putin in the room with you, threatening you. Right now, as you're sitting here, you're just releasing. And the problem, right here, right now, is just a picture in your mind. And like I said, you don't have to agree with it. You have to agree with Putin or whatever that problem is. You just look at that picture that's in your mind right now. It's just a picture. Just say yes to it. Just because yes is positive, and positive doesn't hurt anything. And could you say yes to it a little bit more? And could you say yes to it a little bit more? And could you say yes to it a little bit more? And even more. And even more. And even more. and even more. And could you say yes to it even more? And how do you feel now? Do you feel less threatened, more secure, more clear? And see, from this place, even if you do have to take some sort of action, now you can take clear action, not reactive ego reaction. There's a big difference. And you'll have to fight through your feelings in order to take that action. You can just take it easily and effectively. Or, even better yet, you just get nice and peaceful and loving, and nothing needs to be done. Because what do you have to do if it's all your picture? Nothing. Just lovingly change it. But you see, when you say no, nothing changes. When you say yes, things start to change. So this is another way to deal with these limitations in our life. Take the attitude of, I'm just going to surrender to it. And what you do is you effectively turn every problem into an opportunity, into a portal that by surrendering, you just open up that portal, you step through it with no guard up, just completely open, vulnerable. And you see, that's the strongest place you can be. Because you step through and you just realize there's nothing out there but me. And this makes it easy to really go free. Sometimes we go, well, what do I need to release on next? Well, any limitation that you have, guess what? You're staring at it. It's right in front of your face all the time. You're constantly looking right at it, going, well, what do I need to let go of? It's like me saying, where are my glasses? They're right in front of my eyes. I can't see them. Where are they? You're looking for the answer. It's right there. So by taking this attitude of surrendering to everything, then you're just going to see, what's still in the way, what's right in front of my nose. I'm just going to surrender to it, dissolve it. If you did that, you quickly would go free. In 3 months or less, just like Lester. All right? Try it. What's another limitation that you have? What's something else that threatens you? What is something that's beyond your reach, your capability? And first, just take a look to see if you're saying no to that thing in any way. By trying to figure out a solution to it, by trying to figure out a way to change it, by wanting to change it, or wanting to pretend that it's not there, or just flat out pushing it away. Get that thing away from me. I want to be separate from it. Now, could you let go of wanting to be separate from it? And this is just a decision, yes or no. And to help you to discriminate, notice how it feels to separate yourself from anything, even bad things. Just notice how it feels to want to be separate. It's pretty painful, right? It's a very harsh feeling. So that right there tells you that when you're wanting to be separate, you're going in the wrong direction. And whose decision is it to want to be separate? That's yours. And if that is leading you into a painful place, could you let go of wanting to be separate? And could you let go of wanting to be separate even more? And even more. And even more. And even more. And even more. And could you let go of wanting to be separate even more? And more. And even more. And could you let go of wanting to be separate even more? And even more. And could you let go of wanting to be separate from that thing? And how does that feel? A bit more empowered, right? Now, since letting go of that wanting to be separate from the problem, that's lifting you up. You feel a little bit lighter, a bit more empowered. You're moving in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. Since we're moving in the right direction, let's move further in the right direction. So whatever that thing is, that problem that you have on your mind, now can you move towards it? Right? So it's just the opposite of wanting to be separate, like get away from it. Keep that thing away from me. Now, just Move towards it. Could you allow yourself to be one with it? Maybe just a little bit. And could you be one with it a little bit more? And could you be one with it a little bit more? And a little bit more. And a little bit more. And even more. And even more. And just surrender to the whole thing. Just totally allow yourself to be one with it. Just open up, surrender. With the attitude of, have your way with me. It's okay. I allow it. And just surrender a little bit more. And more. And more. And even more. And what are you experiencing now? What's going on with that picture that's in your mind right now? Is it still real? Is it still a problem? Is it still a threat to you? Or in this space of surrender, you have quiet, peace, imperturbability. And how strong do you feel now? Now that you're more imperturbable? Again, even if you have to take action, isn't this a better place to take action from? And how loving do you feel now? And how powerful do you feel now? And you see, love equals power. And surrendering, dropping your guard, opening up, saying, have your way with me. Even though the mind hates that idea, don't do that. I'm going to get destroyed. But what do you experience? The opposite. Don't you feel more bigger than that problem? Heck, maybe even that problem has disappeared. There's like nothing there. There's just only quiet now. And this is something that's interesting to notice. Because This act of surrendering and how it makes these limitations and problems go away. It's like walking in the desert. And as you're walking through the desert, off in the distance, you see what looks like water. Now, it could be water off in the distance, or it could be a mirage. It could be just nothing there. An illusion that's hitting your eyes. But as long as you're like, keep that away from me, I don't want to go near that thing, you won't know whether it's an illusion or whether it's real. But once you start walking towards it, if it's an illusion, what happens? It just disappears as you move towards it. And the same thing happens with any problem or limitation that you have. First of all, just notice your typical ego reaction to these limitations and problems. Like, oh, I don't want that. Keep that away from me. You say no to it. You resist it. Try to figure a way to avoid it, a way to make it go away, to change it. But what does that accomplish? Does that make the problem go away? It's always there. You're looking at it. There it is. I see it. And it seems real. And as long as you keep doing that, and you've been doing that probably your whole life, then these limitations and problems, they will always seem to be true. But when you get bigger than your own reaction to it, like, ugh, get that away from me, and you decide to be courageous, and you decide to be loving, move up into acceptance. Because remember, surrender is a loving thing. I'm dropping my guard. I'm moving towards you. I'm willing to be one with you. Then the problem disappears. And it doesn't matter what the problem is. Because, as Lester points out, everything is your picture. And this is a way to prove it to yourself. So again, take a look at a problem, a limitation that you have in your life. Maybe it's still the same one. Maybe there's some of it that's still real and you're still like, ugh, I don't want to go there. Or maybe it's something else. What's another limitation? Or the same one? And in very simple terms, see if you're saying no to it. See if you're resisting it. Wanting to be separate from it. Basically, just saying no to it. And to say no to it, make it go away? No, that just keeps you a victim. It keeps you small. So since that doesn't work, take a look at that limitation now. Just look right at it. It's just a picture in your mind. And again, you don't have to agree with it. But just take the position of love. What's wrong with being loving? Love is power. So say yes to it. Just look at that picture and say yes to it. And say yes to it a little bit more. And a little bit more. and even more, and even more. And could you say yes to it a little bit more? And even more. And more. And more. Now see if part of you still wants to be separate. You still feel like you need to protect yourself. You still feel vulnerable. The only reason why you feel vulnerable is because you're wanting to be separate. There's no vulnerability in oneness. So could you let go of wanting to be separate from that thing? Yes or no? And could you let go of wanting to be separate from it a little bit more? And a little bit more. And more. And even more. And more. And could you let go of wanting to be separate from it a little bit more? And even more. And even more. And even more. And how does that feel? Now, could you allow yourself to be one with this thing? Move towards it. Get closer to it. And drop your guard. You can't protect yourself by putting a barrier around yourself. That just gives some sort of surface onto which you can be attacked. But if you don't have any guards up, there's like nothing there. So could you surrender to it? And could you surrender to it some more? And even more. 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 And could you be one with this thing? Just get right with it. Take on the same space as it. Be one with it. Totally invite it in. And what would you have to let go of in order to be one with it? Maybe you still have some resistance inside. If so, just let it go so you can be one with it even more. And what else would you have to let go of in order to be one with it? Maybe you'd have to let go of all your wanting to be safe. And notice what that does, that wanting to be safe. It puts your mind in fear mode. Always looking out. Always worrying. Which doesn't solve anything. Could you let that go? And what else would you have to let go of in order to be one with it? Maybe you're into wanting to control it. And say, for instance, it's a situation with Russia attacking. You're wanting someone to go in and control the Russians and control Putin. I want someone to go and take that guy out. That's called wanting control, which at its very base level is wanting to kill. And where does that get you? It just leaves you sitting there feeling out of control. So could you let go of that wanting control? Just let that go. And could you let go of wanting control a little bit more? And even more. And even more. And what else would you have to let go of? Maybe wanting approval in some way? And look at what you're holding in mind. That you inherently lack approval, and you got to do something in order to earn it, which you never can. It's never good enough. So there's only one thing to do now. Could you let go of that wanting approval? Now notice the whole nature of Lester's method here. By letting go of wanting safety, wanting control, wanting approval. Basically, what are you doing? You're surrendering, right? And to completely surrender, what do you have to do? You got to let go of all your personal desires, your want for control, your want to be safe, your want of approval, right? Otherwise, that's not surrendering if you're still holding on to those wants. So Lester's whole method is about surrender. It's the practical way to do it. It's not some airy-fairy thing that you're trying to imagine. You see exactly what you need to do. I got to drop this. I got to let go of my wanting. And ultimately, what do you have to do in order to surrender? What would you have to let go of? Your whole ego. You just have to set your own ego aside. I'm not worried about me whatsoever. My only focus is love. Now, I can't be wanting anything personal in order to be loving, unconditionally loving. So could you just drop your whole persona? Just set your whole ego aside. And just let go. Let yourself completely surrender to that whole picture, that whole limitation now, that whole problem. Just surrender to it. Even if it's just taking the attitude of, hey, if you run me over and crush me, destroy me, so be it. I'm not worried about myself. I'm choosing love. I'm choosing to surrender. No matter what happens. So that's being imperturbable, which is the same as surrendering, which is the same as being loving. Just let go. Be imperturbable. Surrender. And be one with everything. Could you surrender some more? And surrender some more. And more. And even more. And even more. And even more. And just completely surrender now. And notice what else you'd have to let go of. Your mind. You even have to let go of thinking about the whole thing. So just let go of your mind and surrender to now. And now. And now. And now. And now. And what are you experiencing now? Take a look at that problem and see if it's still a problem to you now. Or do you feel bigger than it? Maybe that whole thing disappeared, just like the mirage. And what's left right now? Just you, the I of you. That's the only thing that's real. And from that place, you can change the picture. Try it. From this place of surrender. All right? And when you're ready, you allow your eyes to open. And allow yourself to stay in this place of quiet all the rest of the day. Keep letting go. Keep surrendering. And just watch what unfolds for you.